Well, welcome to the Dare to Be Great, Dare to Be You podcast. My name is Sean Langwell, and I am your host. And I started this show a couple years ago because I wanted to bring together people of all walks of industry and life to come together and share one common goal, their experience, strength, and hope as it relates to what they do in their vocation, their career, and their lives. The entire purpose of this is to bring people together to share some of that wisdom for the sole purpose of helping to inspire those of us who have not yet gotten to where they are. It's called Dare to Be Great, Dare to Be You for a reason. There's an element of courage that has to happen before we can actually step forward into the fear and the unknown of the things that possibly scare us. So I can guarantee what you will get out of this show and my conversation with Anthony Amunategui later on today as we jump into this is that you're going to walk away feeling more confident in yourself as a result of what you hear today or in any of the other episodes. My name is Sean Langwell. I'm the host, and we have Anthony Amunategui. Is that pronounced correctly?
Amunategui, but close enough.
Amunategui.
The last
Amunategui.
girl that said it right, I married her. I just want you to know. Last time it was
Amunategui.
said right, and I'm not even sure I say it
I
right.
keep wanting to say gooey. Amunategui. One more time.
Hey, listen, my love is a little gooey. You to get to know me, you'll get to know that the love that I have is a little gooey. So, Sean, it's awesome. I'm glad to be on your show. Look, how many times have we done podcasting together? It's been,
I think this is about our fifth or sixth time,
yeah,
and you're a
yeah.
seasoned vet, and we're going to jump into that. But just for those who don't know you, I got a little bio from you here. You're a founder of CDO Group, a national commercial construction firm. You've done that. You started it 25 years ago. Small
29
business,
years ago now. 29 years ago.
29 years
Can you
ago.
imagine that? 29 years. Sean, I was 4 years old when that happened. I started
Let's
when I was
go,
four.
man. You
Yeah.
age well. Started in his basement, and now he's working with largest brands and building an estimated million square feet of retail space a year. The other part of what you do on a regular basis is your podcast, Future Factory. It's exploding. It explores fascinating topics that are shaping the world as we know it. You love discussing the advancement of AI as well as the game-changing technology that is developing before our eyes. The underlying part of all this is that you have a passion for what makes people successful in business and in life. And you, like me, love diving into real, raw conversations that are unscripted. And that's all I'm going to read now. Welcome, Anthony.
John, glad to be on your show. I love what you're doing. I love the the audacity of someone who says let's go out there and live big, bold, and badass. And I think that's really what you do on your podcast. And so glad to be on today.
Well, I'm glad to have you. You know, I some of the conversations we had in the past were talking about play that took us out to the peaks of the Tibet and Himalayas and having conversations with monks to being able to have a thin wallet and just say calling up your friends and saying, "Hey, where do you want to go today?" and literally booking a ticket and going. That's a dream life, and it's a dream life for me, but it's actually somewhat of a reality for you. So let's start there, and then we're going to dive into a little bit on the podcast and some other recent fun stuff that you did when I called you on a whim the other last couple weeks ago.
When we talk about life, look, as much as I love structure, right? If you know me, I live a very disciplined life. I mean, by the way, it's not always been that way. You know me for a long time. I mean, look, it's not always been a disciplined life. And one of the things I think that a disciplined life gives me is the ability to have to play, right? Through discipline, I get to have a lot of fun on the other side because with structure, right? If you follow me every day, it's like literally the same thing. I come down from upstairs. Where I wake up in the morning, I brush my teeth, I shave all of this, right? You got to get all this beautiful, you got to get shaved. And then I really work on, I come down, I turn all the lights on, and I start with a cup of coffee. I start with morning rituals, and then I'm at the gym. I'm at the gym every single morning at 5:30. I love when that guy unlocks the door to be the guy on the other side who opens it up and lets everybody in. And there's something about breaking Fred in my head, right? Starting the day off with some of those little things. And that discipline, I think, is one of the things we're going to talk about. Why then on the other side of that, you
Mhm.
can have spontaneity, right? Because I look, most of my life's in order, but if you live a life of order, there's also that gets freaking boring, right? As much as I love that, and I know that my bills get paid and all that good stuff happens. Look, I make great money because of that, but I also need to have a life where it doesn't feel like a system, right? I think having
Mhm.
both of those, and we can dive in a little bit more about why I think discipline gives you freedom and why there's this kind of play in that conversation.
Well, and we're going to dive into that right now because we talked about the play aspect last time for quite a bit of time, but you led with discipline, and I think that that's a good spot to lead because people want to be disciplined, they want to do some kind of a change, but it's the discipline that often gets in the way, and it's also underlying that, you and I both know there's elements of fear there that prohibit or put up roadblocks to stop us from moving through it. So let's explore that discipline because I think what people don't understand is they want the results, but they don't and are not willing or they're afraid of or whatever the it is, they don't put in the work necessary that is a discipline, that is a function of practice in order to get the rewards that they really want. So talk about the other side of that because I
Yeah,
know
so,
that
you
you're
know,
disciplined with your routines, but it's not every day is freaking rainbows and unicorns, right?
no, look, I would tell you, look, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die, right? I mean, and that's really the gift is that, I'm 57 years old. I have spent a life and not always been disciplined. Like a lot of my life was an undisciplined. Yeah, I kind of look at my early years very much like you guys. You have a dog? You have a dog?
No.
All right, I got a dog. Her name is Gucci. When Gucci walks in a room, the first thing she does, she goes around sniffing everything. She sniffs everybody, your crotches, your food. She's looking for something. She's discovering the room. A lot of
Hmm.
my early life was that way. And everybody, by the way, that's how life should be. As you enter life, as you're young and you're coming into the planet, you're out to discover. And a lot of that stuff, it's overwhelming. I mean, look, for Christ's sakes, we live in the most abundant time the civilization has ever seen. We're living in the world's best civilization that's ever existed on this planet. There has never been a better time to be a human being. And still, we screw things up every day. I mean, if you look at
Yeah.
government and politics and stuff, and people will tell you how screwed up it is. And the truth is, it's never been better. I mean, like, the truth is, it's never been a better time to be a human being than it is right now. And how many of us can't see that? How many of us wake up in Jurassic Park and can't get out of Jurassic Park? Right? And we spend all day long over there with the dinosaurs and T-Rexes. And what I mean by that is, look, I'm bred that way. I literally am, from a fundamental point of view, I start off in that space of, I'm prehistorically designed to look for dinosaurs, and rightfully so. But today I live in a world of freaking Costco. I got more stuff. I throw away more food than my ancestors ever ate.
Yeah.
The amount of abundance we have. So there's this thing that we're making a shift as humans. And by the way, in this country, what we've done in 250 years blows the freaking socks off the entire world. I travel the world. I've been around this world multiple times, and I will tell you, I mean, there may be some beautiful places, there may be some great people, there may be some wonderful civilizations, but nobody does it like we do here in this country. The
Yeah.
amount of abundance and wealth and income and stuff we have, and by the way, we still screw it up every day, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's still plenty of places where we can get our act together a lot better than we're doing. But what we've done in 250 years is freaking amazing. I mean, it blows the door off the entire world. I mean, it's not like every one of us Americans aren't doing 10 things at one time. You're podcasting, you're on a phone, you got a thing going over here. I'm ordering here right now while I'm talking to you. There's agents that are literally, I have agentic agents, AI agents that are doing thousands of things at one time while I'm sitting here talking to you. And here, my grandfather, if I were to tell my grandfather what I'm doing in this now second, his head would pop like a freaking zit,
Yeah.
right? I mean, think about it. Think about if I were to go to Anthony, my Joseph, my grandfather, and go, today I'm somewhere in the neighborhood of we've probably got 40 jobs going on around the country, right? I mean, 40 different projects all around the country going on at the same time. We're talking multi-millions of dollars. I mean, right now we're probably talking 80 million, $90 million worth of construction under construction today at one time. And if you say that to my grandfather, like it's incomprehensible to him. It would be something he couldn't comprehend. And back then to work with my grandfather, you would have to go to my grandmother's house. You had to go talk to Aunt Anna, and you had to spend 4 hours with her. Like, well, first of all, you had to go find her house, and then you'd have to go sit down with her for 4 hours until you talked her into letting her husband come work for you, right?
Yeah.
And then he would have to come by your house in a month or two, and look at your project. And then he'd have to finish the project he's on and then get the people and then come work on your project. And today we do all of that in 7 seconds.
Well, and let's bring it down to a different level too, because that's the huge, huge vision, which is a benefit of technology, which you talk a lot about on Future Factory, that enables you to do that and scale yourself to where you have these efficiencies. But in terms going back to the discipline for a moment, there's tons of people, like you already said, we're in one of the most richest, wealthiest, abundant cultures. There's huge problems with people because of that abundance of laziness, apathy. And I'm not calling anybody lazy, but quite honestly, I've been lazy myself. One of the biggest challenges I ever had was being complacent, and I still have to battle it all the time. Because when stuff's going good, I get lazy. I call myself ambitiously lazy. And that is a little bit different than what you're talking about of the discipline, but also having fun. And it's this balancing act. But we're in an abundant culture. We have, a huge, huge problems of obesity. We have other problems going on. And people who have very rich lifestyles still struggle with some of the things that I struggled with years and years ago, which are the discipline to do things differently.
Well,
And
let's look at
let's
that
talk
stuff.
into that because
Yeah,
you
yeah. So
you've
let's
done
dive
it
into it. So,
too. So
so you know, one of the things I've identified as a gift, and you go through life in different,
mm,
one of the most beautiful art forms is a Japanese art form called Musaka, and it's the art of broken pottery, right? And they take golden lacquer, and by the way, I'm butchering with the word. So if you guys look it up and call me out on it, it's fair. It's
I think it's
it's this.
Kaizen.
Uh,
Kaizen.
it's a great art form of taking broken pottery and using golden lacquer to put it back together. And through those cracks, it really what makes the beautiful part of the pottery. Now, look, I think life's like that, and it's fair that when people say, "Hey, number one, you got to start with understanding that every idea, right? And to grow the idea, right, you have to walk through broken glass. There's no way
Mhm.
you get to here. There's no growing an idea without going through broken glass, barbed wire, the abyss. You got to hear no idea grows. There's no like linear growth of an idea. And maybe if you're Elon Musk and you have trillions of dollars, you can say do this and the whole world will march that way. But for us normal people, right? You have an idea, then you work on it, then you break down, then you work on it, and you break down, and you work on it, and you break down. Your goal is to keep moving it forward. Now, the
Mhm.
problem is most of us get to a point where we move something forward and we get so tired of the breakdown, we can't take it. But the
Yeah.
gift of growth is that in the breakdown, and this is, nobody teaches us that. I mean, what's funny is, Sean, how many people taught you about math?
My dad did, and it
Right, come
screwed
here.
me up in early grammar. It's a quick to story. My dad did a times table from 1 through 12 and 1 by 12. And I had the multiplication table memorized by first grade, and they weren't even teaching addition and subtraction then. It's not a cocky thing, but the mind will absorb what it can. So yeah,
So look, your dad got that was how important was that? But how much time did your dad teach you about how to deal with breakdown?
none,
How much time did he tell you about dealing with finances?
none.
None, right? I mean, I mean, now, not that our parents were malevolent or some sort of evil people, or just the truth was most of our parents came from a Depression era civilization, right? Their parents literally lived through the Depression, survival, right? They literally came from a part where just getting bread on the table was all you could think about every day. And
Hmm.
they came from those people. Their teachers were survivalist. Now, we get into the picture, and that's who taught them. Now, not that our parents were malevolent or bad people or even not or even incompetent, but the truth was their skill set was limited. Now, today
Hmm.
we're in a most abundant part of the world. We're learning languages and we're learning about trauma and we're learning about the words that we use create the life that we have, right? We're starting to learn that there's a whole set of oh my God, I'm actually, this is a matrix. And I mean, literally, I do believe today that the words we use create the life that we have. And you and I were kind of lucky because we went through some breakdown and we worked on a program that starts off with, one, admitting that we have a problem. We worked on a 12-step program, and one, I admit that I have a problem. Now, how many people are willing to say, I have a problem with my finances, or I have a problem with running a business, or I don't know how to get something done, or I don't know how to be a great lover, or I don't know how to love my wife, or I don't know how to speak to my wife, or I don't know how to speak to my kids. How many people in our society are taught that it's okay not to know something?
None, and that's a big part of, you've already had me on your show, but I'll just reiterate it here because it's totally germane to what you're talking about. I spent probably 3 weeks trying to fine tune my 5 step formula with 10 seconds of boldness. It's not rocket science, but that number one step is identifying the problem or admitting the problem, because that is, if a doctor, I use this analogy and metaphor quite a bit. If you go to a doctor and you say my tooth, or use a dentist, my tooth's hurting so bad, I can't quite figure out what it is. What are they going to do? They're going to examine it. They're going to look at your gums. They're going to take some pictures. They're going to look at the x-ray, the underlying structure. Then they're going to make a recommendation and a clear suggestion of what to do. But because people are so afraid of going to the dentist, or they're so afraid of public speaking, they're so afraid of change and the unknown, you know what they do? They get to sit there with a sore tooth and they get to sit there and bitch about it. And I sound a little harsh, but you know what? If you got a hangnail, get it fixed. If you got a splinter under your thumbnail, you better pull it out or it's going to get infected, right? So identifying the problem is the biggest thing. I don't know why it's so
It's the
challenging.
start, right? It's the start. Now, but here we come from a Christian. I don't know about you, but I came from a Christian background,
Mm,
right? In my Christian, one of the problems I have is with my religion is that a lot of times we spend a lot of time pretending how good we are, right? The
mhm.
virtues and how virtuous I am. What I like about going to my 12-step group is we all start off with, we're all drunks, right? I walk in a meeting, I walk into one of those meetings and we
It
start at,
levels the playing field as soon as
uh,
you walk in. There isn't this supposed mental
yeah,
hierarchy,
we
right?
walk in, I start that I'm a drunk. I start off that I'm a drunk, but now I want to be a better man, right? As opposed to pretending I'm not flawed and lying about it, right? I don't trust those people. I don't try. I can't. I have no way to be there. And by the way, they don't trust me either because they're coming from that way of being. Where I walk into a 12-step group and we have an instant trust because we're vulnerable, right? And there's something, and we just like you're talking about. Once we identify that we've got a problem. And that's what's fun about the 12 steps, right? So you really go through and you go, hey, I got a problem. Drinking, whatever, drugs, whatever it is, gambling, sex, whatever the 12-step group that you're going to is, and for whatever the reason is you're going there, I have a problem. And then I start going, hey, I don't have the answer because if I had the answer, I wouldn't have a problem. Right. So
Hmm.
it can't be me. It's going to be something else, either a higher power or a group or a therapist. Somebody other than me is going to help you out of this problem. Right. And then I start doing an inventory, right? So your inventory, look, and this applies to your addiction, but it applies to your business. It applies to your love life. It applies to your driving skills. When I start to do an inventory of my performance, I really take a rigorous look at I'll give you one I did with my health just recently. I've been working really hard on health. And I mean, when I talk about health, I mean, I have dove in this last year. It has been a 47 pounds, record breaking muscles to, fat loss to muscle gain, just record breaking stuff. Now, one of the things I did was I had to identify I was addicted to sugar.
Hmm.
It took me, Sean, it took me 3 years to figure that out because I would go through these crazy diets and then all of a sudden I'd break down. And I didn't realize how I realized it one day was I was sitting on the couch and I said to myself, my bedroom's upstairs. I said, all I got to do is go from right here to my bedroom tonight. And I just don't go by the kitchen.
Yeah.
And I end up in the kitchen and I'm dipping my mother-in-law, she's Greek. She makes these amazing Greek cookies, amazing Greek, Sean, amazing Greek cookies. And I'm sitting there dipping them in the milk. I've got cookies and milk going. I'm 47 years old, or I'm 46 years old. But I'm dipping cookies in milk, and I got milk dripping down my chin. And I'm
Just like a kid.
like a kid. And Sean, I'm sitting there going, and the shame, right? Because right after that first cookie, the shame kicks in,
Hmm.
right? Like I can't believe I just did this again.
Yeah.
And all I hear, I was on the couch a few minutes ago saying, just go upstairs. But
Yeah.
addiction, what I notice about addiction, and guys, I want you to get this. This cunning, baffling, and powerful, right? It's cunning in that all of a sudden I can't help myself. I can't.
Hmm.
I can't. When I see that, look, in that moment when the milk's dripping down my chin, I'm literally realizing I just said go upstairs,
Yeah.
and now I'm realizing I couldn't help myself. Right? I got as soon as that first cookie went in, what's the next thing happens? Shame kicks in, and what's the next thing happens? Excuse my language. I get the fuckets. Excuse. I don't
Yeah.
mean to cuss on your podcast, but
That's
but
fine.
but it's what happens
My
is all of a
wife
sudden,
did a whole show talking about food addiction that had a whole case of the fuckets, and she just did it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like all of a sudden, I can't. The next thing kicks in, and it's same thing with the drinkers, right? I mean, look, same thing happened with us. When I had that first drink, as long as I don't have that first drink, I'm great. But as soon as I have that first drink, the efforts kick in, and
Yeah.
now I can't. Now I'm off to 10, and it's something I can't see until I look while I'm sitting there looking. I go, okay, I'm addicted to sugar. I literally had this. I was powerless over my ability not to come over to the kitchen. So now I can start to work on that. I can see the inventory of how I do that and how that was affecting my life. Now, like in AA, or for me, as I go through the 12 steps, I start to do this inventory and I start looking at all the things that cause my life. And at first I was blaming, my mother, look, we grew up in Pompano. She was a waitress at Denny's and my father died young and I had all these reasons. But what we start to work on is those are some reasons, but what's my part in it,
Yeah.
right?
That fourth column of that step is the critical one. That's where the rubber meets the road. And what is repeat it again? What is my part? That's personal responsibility, right? That's where the discipline comes back in. And you and I are fortunate enough that we have 12 steps as a guide, but you open with talking about, you don't really get this. There's a lot of pretending going on out there, whether it's in a church building or otherwise, where people are so concerned about what other people think that they have to put on the masks. And you and I talked extensively about that on one of my guest appearances on your show. So what do you do to make that shift to get into the discipline to drop the mask? I mean, you already said you walk in and you say, "Hey, we're a bunch of drunks." That's vulnerability out of the gate. When you diffuse that, now you can come start to build up. So what's some of those other little transitory things that you experience, especially, you made some major changes with food recently.
Right. Yeah.
What
47,
talk
47
about that.
pounds
We don't
down.
have to talk about drugs and alcohol, but let's go ahead and talk about food.
47 pounds down, right?
That's
Think
awesome.
about it. 47 pounds. Muscles
Mm.
have gained dramatically, in the gym 5, 6 days a week, transferring and well, let's get kind of dive into it. So it starts off with breaking that sugar. Right. And that's really where that was my first step into health, was realizing that if I was going to get, the problem with sugar is it literally puts you in a depressive state. It's, you eat enough cookies, you eat crappy enough food, and literally the body itself is lethargic. Now, as I started going from being a sugar eating man to protein-based diet, and I'm not talking about I'm a carnivore, I'm not going carnivore, but I'm talking about of whole foods, right? Of stuff that
Mhm.
was farmed, not produced, right? So I meats, chickens, fishes. I love seafood. I love, right? Great vegetables that were farmed, right? Whole vegetables, not processed or canned, right? And now I just got to those items right there. The dramatic difference in my energy has changed. Now, that was a first step. Like literally, the first step was just trying on that. Now, look, for those of you out there that struggle with sugar, I have such grace for you. My first start at it was I made it 3 months
Yeah.
and I was at a convention for one of our clients and I had one hamburger at the convention and the sugar in the bun had me that night. They had rented out Disney World and we're in Disney World and I got an ice cream. I literally got an ice cream from one of the those street vendors. Everything was free. And I was behind the bathroom eating the ice cream
Wow.
like a junkie. Like I was like hiding because I was like I had such shame. And it took me a couple more years to get back to sugar free. Like, cause like one, I broke it again. The addiction started, the sugar withdrawal started again. Right. And then I suffered over the next couple of years to really get back to doing it. So for those of you that are going through it, just know that a big part of the world, the food supply. There's a reason why they put sugars in that stuff because it's very addictive. Now, I don't
Hmm.
truly believe they're malevolent, and the truth is, I believe that our country needed cheap food to build what it's doing. I mean, if you look at what we've done in our country in 250 years, we needed a lot of cheap food to feed the masses, and we did it. And by the way, we did it. And now we're starting to realize that we might just make some adjustments, which I think, by the way, we're going to do the same thing. We're about to do the same thing with AI. We're about to build all this cheap power. We're letting anybody build any power plant they want, anywhere they want. And look, there's going to be some consequences because of it. But in order for
Sure.
us to win the AI race, which we have to do. We have to do that. It's look, if we don't, we let China get there. There's a cost to that, right? If we don't do that, so we need to really create that win. There's going to be some cost to it, just like the food was for us, and we're going to have to step back and realize there's some impact to just doing cheap power everywhere we go. But here, in order to do what we're about to do, just like we did for this country, we needed a lot of power to build in the last 250 years. What we've done is crazy. I mean, just think about how successful we have been in 250 years here in in this country. So, here, fair enough that we're there now, and now it's time to start making that change to okay, let's go to all right, maybe a hamburger for $1.50 isn't what I should be doing. Maybe I
Well,
should.
yeah. And what else did you do though? Because I mean, you got the discipline. Was there, did you apply the 12 steps to it? I mean, I'm just saying
That's
for
right.
the listeners out there, so because there are solutions, there's tons of solutions. I've witnessed and watched and experienced 101 solutions for a lot of different things, but what worked for you?
Well, so it just starts with one, I did the inventory, right?
Okay.
I had to look at my thoughts, actions, and behaviors.
Okay.
So look, and we're going to apply that to not just the food. Food's an easy one. I want you guys to see because I think it's easy to see in food, right? Because it's an easy one to start off with. And look, if I just gave you, if you walked off this podcast today and you applied it to your food life, that'd be a great way to look at it. Now, I'm going to tell you, this same effect works in your financial world. It works in your
Yes.
love life. It works in your sex life. It works in your driving. It works with your finances. It works with all parts of our life. When we take an inventory, right? Get rigorously honest about it. Now, sometimes you got to remember, I have a built-in liar. And I don't really mean that. I mean, not like I'm some sort of evil man, but I have this justifier. Like if I could change it, I would have. The problem is I've justified the behavior because,
We all do in our
right,
own way. I mean, I call it the itty bitty shitty committee in our head. It's all the lies that we believe about our upbringing and our beliefs about our own self-worth that we have been conditioned and continue to feed like a hungry lion day after day after day because 85 to 90% of our thoughts are negative. So, yeah, starve the beast. No pun intended.
well, and that's what it takes. So what was great about the food change, right, was all of a sudden, and I'm not going to tell you here, I took an Ozempic, right, or Zepbound, I took Zepbound, and I went to those GLP-1s, right, and that helped. Then all of a sudden, some of the weight started coming off. And what you got to know is that when you do a character change, when you do something that changes your life, you need some wins. The truth
Yeah,
is, if you don't get some wins, if you don't find some happiness, you're gonna get mad and be like, I'm gonna go backwards, right? I might as well go back. It's like people who get sober and don't find fun in their sobriety, you're going to go back to drinking, right?
yeah.
If you're sober and your life is miserable, you're not going to make it very long. You got to go find some things to do it. Now, there's some techniques there, right? So now, number one, I had to get out of my head, right? So
Mhm.
when I had to create some activities that were changing. So one of the things I started was working out in the morning. Now, what's great about going to the gym in the morning is that, I get up at 5 and I read this book by an astronaut. I'm going to draw a blank on her name right now, but she's an astronaut. She's got a book. It talks about 3, 2, 1 legs over the bed. And that technique right there changed my world. Now look, if you want to know the truth, the first month of working out, getting to my sneakers was my goal.
Hmm.
It wasn't even getting to the gym. It was getting from my bed to my sneakers. If I could get the sneakers on, rarely would I go back to bed. So I had to do all these little trickeries to get there. Like one,
Hmm.
I put my phone across the room. So that alarm clock going off, so I couldn't go over and shut it off and hit the snooze. Two, once I got up, one of the things I do is Eddie Pinero, he's one of those great little podcasters. If you guys get a chance to look up Eddie Pinero, he's a a great guy. He's got a great message. And the first thing I do in the morning is I turn him on. Now, what that does is it shuts up Fred, right? I got this guy in my head. I
Mhm.
call him Fred, right? And Fred in my head, he's kind of a jerk, right? Fred's like, oh, go back to bed. Oh, you don't need to go to the gym. Oh, you don't need to. But here, what happens is I put Eddie on, right? I turn Eddie on, and now that drowns out Fred while I'm brushing my teeth. The first thing I do is I brush my teeth. And then I start shaving. And once I start brushing my teeth and start shaving, very rarely do I go back to it. I don't think I've ever gone back to bed, right? So it's just a matter of getting those little tricks to hacks. Three, two, one, legs over the
And
bed.
those, I mean, James Clear talks about it in Atomic Habits. That's habit stacking. That's little tiny wins that move you forward. Now you brush your teeth, you shave your head, you've had a cup of coffee if you have coffee in the morning or whatever else. You got your sneakers on. Now what?
And my goal is to be at that gym at 5:30. So look, I'm up at 5,
Mm.
shave, shower, and crap, do all that stuff. Get down there, have my AG1 and a cup of coffee. And I'm out my door at 6:25 so I can be at the gym at 6:30 when that door opens. Now, or 5:30 when that door opens. Now I work out from 5:30 to 6:15. I'm pretty religious about it. I have a 45-minute workout. I work on two body parts every time I'm in there. Today I did back and or chest and triceps, and I will tell you, I walked out of there where I could barely pick up a pencil. In 45 minutes, I don't mess around. I go in there and get it done. Now, look, even on the days when I go to the gym and it's a better than nothing workout, I still go to the gym. Now look, it wasn't always that way. Those first couple of months of going to the gym isn't easy. By the way, same thing with sobriety. My first 90
Oh,
days of sobriety, well, I was a miserable cuss. I literally, I didn't know how to feel. I didn't know how to do. I was mad that I couldn't drink anymore. And all of a sudden, I didn't know that you could have fun in sobriety. Now, what was fun about, being in sobriety was there was this guy, Vince McFadden. Vince used to come over and we go, Anthony, he pushed me at some new guy. He go give that guy your number. I go, well, what do you mean by go give my number? He goes, see that newcomer over there? Go give that guy your number and you'll be happy. I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, one, you'll get out of your brain, right? And you're going to go help somebody else. And by helping somebody else, you'll be happy. And I was like, oh, I'd go over and give that guy my number, and all of a sudden I'd be happy. Well, the same thing happens in the gym. Like just going to the gym, when I walked out of the gym, I felt happy. Now, you got to remember, the body wasn't there yet. I was still
sure.
47 pounds overweight, right? And I'd still, but I'd leave from my house in the morning. I'd look in the mirror and I think, you fat slob. But even after my first couple of workouts, I'm in there flexing, like, oh, look at, it just I call the gym a portal, right? Like on one side of the door of the gym, right? I'm one way. When I go into the gym, it transports me from Jurassic Park over to Disney World, right? There's something about leaving that gym. I'm already in Disney World now, or just about to get there. Now at 6:30, I have a spiritual practice I do every day, right? I have this meeting that I go to every day, and it starts off with a great spiritual practice. Now, by the time I leave that meeting at 7:30, I'm in Jurassic Park. Or I'm sorry, I'm in Disney World. I'm now in Disney World, and I found Mickey Mouse. Right, all of a
Yeah.
sudden, I'm now suitable for human consumption, and I can be around you in a positive way. I can be around you in a way that says, "Hey, I'm looking for the good, not the bad." Now, look, it's the law of attraction, call it whatever book you want to, but whatever vibration that happens for me from that moment on, I'm now in Disney World, and the gift of being around me is that I'm looking for the good, not the bad every day.
And that right there is the journey that we all experience, whether we're in recovery coming up on 40 years or 10 or 20 or not. But that normal transference of energy and alignment happens when we're intentional about it. It happens when we want to create that. And you're right. Rhonda Byrne in The Secret talked a lot about that and interviewed a whole bunch of different people to get pull quotes, but it's deeper than that and it's longer than that. It's something that's been around for a long, long time, and then they put names and labels on it. But the bottom line is taking care of ourselves, which is what you're talking about. It's
Yeah.
taking personal responsibility for the direction and the thoughts and attitudes and actions that we want to do to create and manifest the life that we think we want to live. And in the absence life change is inevitable and it's also infinite. But the intentional change to make those shifts to go in a direction that we want are what exactly you were talking about. And I think what I'd like you to do here is talk, if you can, a little bit about to those people, regardless. I mean, we already talked about the 12 step, but what would you say to some of those people who are on that spot where we've been and we will be with other things that come up? Because as a good friend of mine told me a long time ago, a friend and mentor said, more will be revealed. You think you got this together, and guess what? There's something else to work on. So let's talk about that a little. We're not coming from a place of holier than thou because we've got a few days and something. This is an ongoing life journey.
Yeah, I wish, like, oftentimes the character defects, and so
Mm,
here's one of the things that I want to talk about. I think it's important is that I see, there's a great podcast. It's called Seek Discomfort. And one of the reasons why I like that is when I look at my life, what I'm looking for are the things that aren't working. Now, look, if
mhm.
it's drugs and alcohol or my relationship or the way I look or the things I'm doing, what are the things that aren't working? Right. So here, what are they? Now, what I know is I have to work on my thoughts, actions, and behaviors. Now, part of me says I don't. If I knew how to do them, I would have. Like it'd be easy. But of course I would do that. Right. But the problem is either I don't believe I can, or I don't understand that I can, or I can't see the steps that I can, or I would be doing that. I mean, I don't think any human are out there trying to be miserable. But the truth is that I can't see that I'm miserable, and I can't understand that there's a way of changing and that this is my matrix. I can do anything I want on this planet. Today I have 10 different companies. 10 different companies. And if you would have told me when I started out that you could have 10 different companies, that you could run successfully 10 different organizations that are all going the same direction, right? I would tell you how could you do that? Now, what you got to start working on are what are the things that are in the way? What are the
Mhm.
thoughts, actions, and behaviors? Now, a lot of what I do is say no, right? Things that I don't do, right? These are things that I have to say no to. Like there's certain things that I can and can't do in order for me to meet the goals and objectives I want. So one, you got to figure out what I want. So like when I look at the company, the CDO Group, right? I've had it for 29 years now. Now for 29 years, it's not always been perfect, right? But today I start to look at, all right, what are the things I would like to do? Now, at first, when I built the company, part of it was probably to serve. I wanted you to see me, Sean. I wanted you to see that I
Sure.
was
It was
successful.
status, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure it was. I mean, for sure, I wanted you to know the little redneck boy who grew up in Pompano was a success. I wanted you to see the things and the cars and the money and the
And we
flashy
we
life.
share that. I grew up dirt poor after my dad left too, and I just wrote about it this morning, and we'll go back to you in a second. But it's like this has just been you actually brought this to my attention at when I was a guest on your show once. It's just like when are we going to get to that place of that we are okay and we don't have to keep performing to try and meet some unrealistic expectation of what we think the world thinks we should be or feed our ego.
I, you know, I'm not sure it ever goes away. I think I can notice it today better than ever. If today I've got an understanding that maybe I look at myself and I have this belief today, and that I'm a spiritual being, like this little piece of God driving this meat suit, right? There's two parts to me. There's
Piece of
this
God driving a meat suit.
yeah, no, just here, like. I had this vision. My cousin Michael. He's a great guy. I'll tell you a story real quick. So Michael's my Italian cousin. He's a great guy. Michael's never had a job. In fact, I actually just got a job. First job in his life. He's 50 years old, but never had a job. Right, and his dad gave him his inheritance before he died. He was young. But Michael's mom died young. Then Michael had a son who died at 17, and that was really a tough
Mhm.
time for him. And then his dad died last year. And he was going through a tough time. He was there with his dad as he went through his death, and he was stood there side by side. He was a great son, did all the right things. But he calls me up. He's like, "That's it. I can't take life anymore. I'm just too sad. The sadness is overwhelming me." He goes, "I'm going to become a monk." I go, "What?" I go, "Michael, you're not going to be. Just take a deep breath. I know you're going through some tough times. No, I'm going to be a monk." So we talked about going this monastery in Nepal, and he goes, "I'm going to go. I'm going to go up there." I go, "Okay, look, they have this 30-day program." Here's the deal. I'll cut with you. If you go there, and he goes, I'm going tomorrow. Yeah, I go, I'll meet you. I said, Michael, I'll meet you there on day 30. He goes, no, you won't. I go, I promise. If you go check in and do the 30-day course, I'll be there on day 30. And he goes, you promise. I go, I promise you. Now you imagine on day 28, I pack my bags. It takes 2 days to fly to Nepal. It takes 2 days to climb up a mountain. By the time I get up to the mountain, I climb up there. Now I got to get up there, and it's day 30. I get up there, and he's like, I'm gonna spend a couple days up in the monastery with him. Now you can imagine it's a silent retreat. You got all these Nepalese monks, these little tiny guys, right? They're all in their orange little outfits, and they're all like, I call them the boys in their pajamas. They're all up there in these pajamas. Now, what was cool about it was I could see, literally I could see it, like you ever Sean, you ever play pool where you lay over the table and you can almost see your shot exactly.
Hmm.
Like sometimes I lay over the table and I can almost see the line on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. You get it. Well, I like here. My vision while I was up there was I could almost literally see the glowing light in these little monks. They were like I could see the God in you bowing to the God in me. I could see it in these men. Now you can imagine you're up in here. Now I don't know if it's a lack of sleep, lack of oxygen. I mean, by the way, I'm not sure why all monasteries have these hard little beds. I'm not sure. There's no like heavenly bed up there. But I'm up there. I'm not sleeping, and I have this vision that God's been here forever, right? I have this vision of God, like this almost like just imagine billions and billions of years of God being here. And I have this vision and almost like as if, and I don't want to use the word bored, but almost like God had been here for so long, for billions and billions of years with no time, that almost like there was a boredom. Let me kind of give you a little side set. My family is from Italy. We own this big, massive piece of property there. We've had it for hundreds of years. And a big part of that property is there's no property tax. So we got people who live on the property, who some of them give us cheese and some of them give us some olive oil. But the truth is nothing's happened on that property for hundreds of years. I mean, like literally it's nothing happens. Here in this country, I've got two pieces of property side by side here. My taxes alone on these two buildings are over $100,000. I promise you that I'm not holding on to these two buildings at $100,000 without doing something with it. So I rent out one building that pays for most of the
Mm.
taxes, and I rent out the other one. I live in part of the other one, and so our property taxes actually cause us to have highest and best use. Now you think to yourself, property taxes are good for a country. It's actually quite amazing in that it forces that property owner to use the property well. Well, the same thing happens with time. Just imagine that God's been here forever with no time. And my thought was, and I don't hear the feeling I had in that vision was that we'd been here for so long, or God had been here in this universe for so long that creation kind of slowed down. That we,
Mm.
the being God, right here, just imagine this is the being God, right here, my Starbucks coffee. I'm sorry, God, Starbucks is not God, but here, just imagine that was God, and just a little drop of that. We said, all right, we're going to make this playground called Earth. And in the playground, we're going to make these humans have a timer. They're built-in timer. You get 100 years, right? You get 100 years, you got a built-in timer. And by the way, we're going to make you horny and we're going to make you want to procreate. And by the way, you're going to want to take care of those people that you procreate for. So you want to have kids and want to make sure you take, and we built in a timer and we built in a desire to have more, to procreate and create more of them. And we built in a desire to make sure we protect them. And now just a little piece of God is in each, all 9 billion of us. And we're now creating 9 individual pieces of God that are creating all individually. And by the way, we had to throw in an ego, right? In order for us to separate from others, we had to have an ego, right? And now we have our first sense of separation from the whole. And that's part of the complexity we have. So now
Mhm.
imagine I'm having this feeling, right? This thing,
While you're
vision
up there in Nepal.
right here. And today, that's still the kind of vision I have of God. It's our job is to remember that we're a piece of God and we're driving around in this meat suit. Now, a lot of us forget that, right? We're not connected to that. We're creators, right? We're made in the image of God, and that our job is to be a creator. That literally the only value of being down here is that you're this piece of God in this meat suit driving around, and your job is to go create. Now, the problem is that I carry all this other crap with me: fears, anger, resentment, frustration, right? My job is to work on those things so I can get back to the creator in me, the one that's able to see and vision. Like Sean, when we slow down and we take a deep breath, right? When things are going really tough, if I just slow down and get some serenity, I can get back to understanding, right? I can get back to my conscious behavior. And the truth is, I'm connected to all that is. I'm connected to the being God, and wisdom is built into me. But I need to slow down and get there. Now, sometimes I can't see it through my addictions, right? Sometimes I couldn't see it through my fears. I can't see it through my resentments. And those are the things that I have to work on. And the more of those things I work on, I will tell you the faster and faster creation's happening around me. I'll give you an example. The other day, I was, I was Super Bowl Sunday, and my daughter was selling her car. She has a little Mercedes for sale, and a little sign on it, and it was $2,000. And some guy comes by and sees it and goes, "Yeah, I love it." Now, uh, earlier that day, my wife for Super Bowl has this big giant potato chip thing. It's 4 feet long by 8 or 4 feet wide by 8 feet long. It's a stadium. It's set up like a stadium. It's massive freaking chip thing we put in the center of our warehouse, and that's kind of where all the kids eat all the potato chips. And it's got guacamole in the middle for lines and like the field. It's kind of cool, right? So I went to buy some lights to shine on her table, and while I was at Home Depot. I don't, hey, Sean, I have no idea why, but I walked by and there were some zip ties. I picked up some zip ties. I didn't need zip ties for anything, but I thought I'd buy some zip ties. And I come back home and this guy comes up, he wants to buy the car. And he goes, here, I'm going to give you a deposit. He gives him his deposit. And he goes over into a check cashing place and he gets a tag. It's like, it's Super Bowl Sunday. He gets a tag and he comes back and I get a knock on the door. I get a knock on the door. He goes, hey, you wouldn't happen to have a couple of zip ties, do you?
Whoa.
Right here. The zip ties were a foot from me. I'm telling you, as we start to work on things and we get in a flow state, and we let go of the things that are holding us back. Literally, the world wants you to do this big, bold, and badass stuff. Just like you talk about in your podcast. The world literally needs us to do it. The world wants us to do it. And the purpose of being here is that we're the individual piece of God, and our job is to be a creator. And in that action, and in that stuff, the more of the stuff we let go of, the more opportunity, the more creation, and the more flow that will happen. And I will tell you that that's the stuff that, if I were to give people a gift, is work on those things that are holding back. Here, quit watching the news. If it's making you mad, stop watching it. Here, quit calling that aunt that makes you pissed, pisses you off every day. Right here, most of us don't realize that anger is like a drug. I use emotions and alcohol is the same. Like great a great fight is tequila. Those guys. A fine wine is a resentment. Ooh, come on, come on, come on. You just swear that fucking guy. He's sort of swirling around a fine, right? Good gin is a good fight. Come on, good fight, right? Their emotions could be just as much a drug, and we get off on them, right? When I'm mad at you, I don't have to look at myself, right?
Good
And
point.
what value here, what happens is I can't get connected to the creator in me. And the purpose of being here is to be a creator. And when I'm mad at you, look, all I'm doing is checking out. Here, you might as well be watching TV or drinking a beer, right? It's the same value, it's the same thing. Now, that's where I start to really want people to get is the more of that stuff I work on, the more present and conscious I can be, the faster and faster creation happens around us.
And that's really where you started when we started this podcast too, is the discipline to have fun and the balance. And you just, we got there because we always do, but understanding that we are a little piece of God, whatever that means to you, whatever it means to me, we are creators, as you say. And when we are focused on the character defects, the problems, the opportunities, that we keep looking at those things that we have to fix because it doesn't make us whole if we don't fix these things, that, in my opinion, is a noble cause. But when we only focus on those things, we're wasting our time and energy, much in the same way that you say of watching news, where we're just going to get angry, pissed off, and whether it's drinking tequila or gin or swilling the wine um, for a resentment, those things don't do us any good. So to create the space, if I'm hearing you correctly, we need to just learn how to be present and a little bit more humble and a little bit more kind and to let go of the stuff that we don't have control over. And what you talked about, and you just brought me back there the second time, even though we didn't totally finish the story of your cousin going up there. But being up on the top of the mountain in Nepal and having this wisdom and actually literally seeing the monks radiating, that's something that we don't need to go to the top of the Himalayas to feel. What you're telling us right here, right now, is that we can carry those pieces with us wherever we go. It's a
It,
conscious choice.
I got on. We left there shortly afterwards. I give you a little something funny. I got into it with one of the monks, and it here. Look, they're running the same game that we are down here, right? It literally is the same game. They've just figured out that boys in their pajamas up there looks real spiritual. But the truth was, one of the monks was arguing with the other monk because one monk got
Oh,
me,
really?
and there was like the same passive aggressive stuff going on in their world over there. It's just
Oh
it,
my goodness.
right here, even though you're in the spiritual place, they're still human, right?
Yeah.
That you can't escape being human. That being a human comes with fear, resentments, and anxiety. It comes with it. And like you were talking about before, we got to tune out of it. We got to work our way out of it. That I started talking to one of them, and he's like you Americans, you guys are addicted to doing things, and I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. And coming here, it's kind of like a vacation. It's like going to an island, right? You
Mhm.
go on an island for vacation, feels really cool, but you go hang on that island for 6 months and you start realizing I got island fever. I feel like I'm missing the planet. And there's so much more stuff to do. You start missing being involved with stuff. Well, the same thing I
Sure.
said to him up there. I go, look, it's cute for you boys in your pajamas to be up here, hanging out. You're here, and you got these women from the city who pay for you, and every morning, every night they go down, and the women of the community bring them food. I go, look, you've just found a way to survive. Now, what I would
Mhm.
ask you to do is take the same spiritual stuff and hey, come on down to the playground where I've got 5 kids and we're trying to grow families and businesses. Take the same spirituality and come play on the dance floor with me.
Mm.
Apply this spiritual nature to actually getting some stuff done on the planet. And I think there might be a gift of us mixing your spiritualness and kind of the spirituality of actually being a creator. So that was a pretty spirited conversation with a monk. And by the way, we left there and we went to Bangkok. Yeah, we went to the other side of spirituality.
But so I lost the train of thought because you lost me at Bangkok. But basically, what you're saying is that you can take this with you wherever you go, and that's what I was going to say is we almost have, yes, we have a little bit of a piece of God in us, but that gets nurtured not when we hoard it for ourselves or isolate or just have the spiritual actualization of improving our own well-being, that
Mhm.
the true reciprocity and the infinite exponential expansion of that consciousness is by sharing it with other people, not in a dogmatic, preachy way, but in a way that we live as human beings. And that's what every time we have conversations, whether it's on your podcast, a meeting, whatever, I always end up coming back to there because that's what I get fed from when I have conversations with you, is there's this kismet that I don't even understand because we've never met each other in person, but there's a connection there. You understand me and I understand you, and there's a lot of the same problems that we each have. You're in a different world from a business perspective, but that doesn't matter. You had me on your show when I came out with a book, and I'm like, why are you having me on here? And you told me later that it was one of the biggest shows ever. I'm like,
Ever. Yeah, wait, here,
for what?
people love it. People
For
love
what?
when you and I go at it. It's a good conversation, Sean. It's
But you know
awesome.
what?
Being on your show is awesome. I'm so grateful for you having me on today.
I love I'm glad that you get to come over here because I love hearing your wisdom, your experience, and just checking in. And folks, tell them about your podcast so they can look it up because you
Yeah,
have
yeah. Come check
phenomenal
us.
guests.
Come check us out over at Future Factory Podcast. I'm always looking for the things that are going to hack our life, or the things that are going to work on making what we do here a little bit better. Always looking for the thoughts, actions, behaviors that we can do that really will create and facilitate a future that's worth living. And that's really what we do over at Future Factory. We have all kinds of coaches and business coaches people come at us from different points of view. Love to have you and your audience come over and join us. And it'd be great, Sean. And by the way, I need you back over there again. Have another one over on our show.
We'll do that soon. I got another book that I'm coming out. As soon as it's ready to be released, I'll reach back out to you.
By the
But
way, I got morning meditation. Where the number one book, you know where it's at? Right next to my bathroom every single morning. If you guys haven't gotten morning meditations, you are
morning
missing out.
motivation, motivation.
Motivation. I'm sorry,
That's right.
motivations. It is literally one of my favorite books. It starts my day off. When I talk about tuning in. Sean's book, Morning Motivations, is that book. I have it right next. It's literally on the back seat of my bathroom, my toilet. I see it every single morning.
I
Sean, I'm
love it.
grateful
Oh
for
my
that.
God. Dude, I you're the only one that probably knows this. I actually wrote that to be a crapper book, and I'm writing more and more of these that literally I want books that people who don't read a whole lot, you can read in a minute and a half while you're taking your morning crap. And
That's exactly what it is.
that's
Every
the whole
morning,
point of why I'm doing
perfect,
this. It's marketing, but you know what? You start the day with the cleanse and you walk out there feeling cleansed. So I guess we could leave on that note.
perfect.
And Future Factory, how do they get a hold of your show?
Future,
Futurefactory.com?
yeah, futurefactorypodcast.com. You can
Okay.
get me there, Anthony at futurefactorypodcast.com. You can get me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all the handles. We're on all those. Hey, by the way, we just broke over on YouTube. We just broke here. Look at it. Check this out, Sean. We just got the button from YouTube. 100. We just broke 100,000 subscribers
Oh
over
my
on YouTube. Yeah,
goodness.
yeah, yeah.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, so cool. We just got that. I don't know, is that coming in? Here we go. Here we go.
A
There we go.
hundred
Yeah,
thousand
yeah.
subscribers.
100,000 subscribers. We just got that from YouTube
Congratulations.
last week, and it's really proud of that. All the work that Jonathan and the boys and Joe and all the team in the background have done to put that together. Really just proud of them and grateful for the work we're doing over there. So, thanks for having me on today.
Absolutely, folks. This has been Dare to Be Great, Dare to Be You. I've been visiting with Anthony for the last hour, and we'll see you next time. If you like the show, follow it, tell a friend, pass it on, and definitely bounce over and check out Anthony's podcast because there's some really good conversations that happen there too. Until next time, this has been Dare to Be Great, Dare to Be You. My name is Sean Langwell.